if I could go back in time, I'll do it all over again, including moving to Bahrain to teach in an all-female university back in 2015.
Hello, everyone. My name is Patricia, and welcome to Middlesex Mooting Society's interview series, where we interview legal professionals about their work to provide you with an insight into the industry. Today, we are joined by Dr. Maria Casoria, who is an academic and legal practitioner with experience in multiple jurisdictions such as the USA, Italy, Bahrain, and the UAE. Her expertise include corporate law and international commercial arbitration, two areas which allowed me to have the privilege of having her as my coach in the vismoot team. Dr. Maria, thank you for joining us today.
Hello, Patricia, and thank you very much for having me for this interview. I'm thrilled to start.
So I think it's important that we go back from the beginning to get an insight into your entire career, entire journey. So could you please walk us through your personal and professional journey that has led you to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. I am originally from Italy, but I have been living and working in the Arabian Gulf, mainly in the Kingdom of Bahrain, for the past 8 years. I always knew I wanted to be a university professor. Teaching others was my passion since I was a little girl. Just to give you an example, I was helping my cousins and my neighbors or classmates who were struggling with some of the subjects. And sometimes I was also helping my elder brother with his homework. And so as I continued doing that during the university years as well, I thought that transferring my knowledge to others and helping them develop their own understanding of things was my goal in life. And I'm enjoying doing that. The people I was helping actually improved their performance. And so I thought, well, this is a win-win situation. I'll try to do this as a job. The decision to study law came by chance. When I was a high school student, I participated in a national competition for high school and university students. And I wrote a poem on the meaning of life, and my poem was awarded. And so the award was actually an educational trip to Strasbourg to visit the European Parliament. And so as I was watching some of the sessions of the EU Parliament, and I was listening to these politicians coming, of course, from different countries, they were talking about problems in their countries and how those interface with the European Union. I just thought that that was amazing. And so when I returned back, because the following year I had to start at university, I started looking for programs, and I came across this Bachelor of Law and International Organizations offered at the University of Siena in Italy. And so from there I began, and I got my bachelor, my master's, and of course my PhD, all from the same university. And my academic career actually started very early. I began as a teaching assistant of comparative legal system at the age of 23. And the same year, I also published my first paper. It was a case comment to a judgment of the EU Court of Justice. So still the same dimension of the law. And Patricia, I can tell you, I still remember how accomplished I felt when I saw my name listed with, leading scholars in Italy. And I said, well, this is what I want to try and do in my life, because I felt accomplished. Overall, I believe that up to this point, I've been quite lucky despite the challenges, because I have had the privilege of doing a job that is also my passion. And so if I could go back in time, I'll do it all over again, including moving to Bahrain to teach in an all-female university back in 2015.
Well, I can tell your passion for academia and for law just from the way you speak about it, and from having teaching students, teaching your brother, even from a young age. It definitely resonates through your words. And what and how has that led you to combine your legal background with your academic career?
Well, this is again because of my personal experience when I was a law student. During my university studies, I always thought that I learned more from the professors who were also practitioners or had some kind of a practical background. Because, academicians sometimes tend to be too theoretical. And so I thought, it is always better to look at things from an holistic point of view, which is why, along with pursuing my PhD studies, I also did the training in Italy to become an attorney. And of course, an additional reason would be that I like always to have a plan B in life. And so I thought, if my dream job does not materialize at some point, I can go for the second best option.
Okay. So your dream job was to become a professor at the end of the
Yeah.
day. And
So
legal.
that's why I consider myself up to this point quite lucky.
And how have you found that integrating your legal background into your academic career has enriched your approach as an academic and a legal professional?
Yes, as I just said, I believe that being an academic with a legal practice experience helps teaching law in a more effective way. Ultimately, whatever career students will take up, they will need to know not just a lot of concepts, but they will need to know how to apply the law, especially because, as you know, as a law graduate, laws are subject to change per se. And so if students are not taught the method to understand, to apply, and to master the law itself, then they might struggle in their future careers. On the other side, as a legal professional that has an academic experience, has an academic background, I feel that my approach to the legal practice is more analytical and is enriched by the fact that due to my teaching and research activities, I need to keep up to date on legal trends, legislative updates, landmark case law. And of course, when one knows how to deal with the students who have different learning styles and backgrounds and levels, interacting with the clients, it's a piece of cake. Although, I'll be honest, I prefer to deal with the students rather than clients. And hopefully none of my clients is going to watch this interview anyway.
Yes, and from personal experience, I have noticed a very drastic difference between lecturers who practice and lecturers who are purely in academia, and just getting the concrete examples and hearing their experiences with the theoretical aspect of the academia is really helpful to the students. So I imagine your students are very grateful for the fact that you decided to take on the legal side of things as well to enrich their experience and everyone's experience. And I remember that during your time as our coach of the vismoot team, you had meetings and roles that required you to work in a US time zone while living in Ukraine. And I've always been intrigued by your ability to excel in those roles, spanning such different time zones. How did you go about managing your tasks and responsibilities?
Well, as you mentioned, having to deal with the different tasks, especially when in addition you also have 7 or 8 hours difference, is not easy. So coping with everything has been challenging at times, especially those days when I had to work with the universities from the MENA region on behalf of my university in the US. Then I had to work with my colleagues back in the US in the afternoon, and in the meantime, I had to prepare for class or I had to teach because I've been teaching online as well. And so, honestly, the way in which I organize my work is very simple, irrespective of the time difference and the different responsibilities. When my day begins, oftentimes the previous evening, I take a piece of paper, usually it's gonna be a sticky note, and I write down the tasks for that specific day. I also arrange my tasks into categories, routine and one-off. So for today, this interview was marked as one-off because it's something that I got to do that specific day and cannot, be moved to another day. And this helps me not just complete better all the tasks, but also I know because of the categorization, I know exactly if I am short in time one day, what I can delay and when that task can be taken care of. In general, I would say that organization and self-disciplines, especially when you deal with multiple roles, are the keys. And I have been following this same method of writing down the daily tasks and categorizing those also when I was a university student, and it worked pretty well.
That's a really helpful tip, Dr. Maria. I imagine all lawyers and law students and any professional who needs to be excelled in time management would really benefit from a task as simple as just writing down the notes and categorizing it. And so now I want to go back to how we met through the vismoot. And the vismoot for the audience is a very prestigious international commercial arbitration moot. And this requires arbitrators from all around the world and universities to compete against each other. And Dr. Maria has coached multiple teams and has arbitrated for the vismoot throughout the years. And I want to ask, what aspects of the vismoot experience inspire you to continue your involvement year after year?
Sure, Patricia. So let me first tell you, I did not participate in the first moot, in the vismoot, when I was a student myself. All right. So I did not have the privilege of doing that because I consider this really a privilege. Whoever student competes in the vismoot has an advantage over other students. So what happened is that when I moved to Bahrain for my job in a local university, the dean asked me if I was willing to coach a team to participate for the first time in the competition. And I remember there were these a few seconds of silence because I thought that I had to do that on the top of my 5 courses, research activities, services. And then I looked at him and I said, you know what? I have never done this before, but I'll give it a try. And so that's how I started. And of course, because that year the university was also hosting the pre-moot competition for the MENA region before actually getting to Vienna, the whole experience included the organization of these supplemental activities as well. But overall, I thought that when I was watching my students and the improvement of my students, I thought that all of these, all the struggle, all the stress is worth it at the end. And especially because at the end of each competition, so at the end of each year, I have plenty of students who come to me and say something like, Dr. Maria, I'm really grateful for because you pushed me through this exercise and through all the stress and the writing and the legal research and the pleading. But next year I want to be a coach. So thank you very much for pushing me to do so. When I hear that, Patricia, and you are one of those. So when I hear that, I say, wow, what I have done was really worth it.
Yes, and even taking on the role as a coach, I took inspiration from you because you were truly the guiding light in our whole experience. And now I want to ask, what specific advantages do you believe law students gain from participating in competitions like the vismoot?
Yes, well, if we think of the vismoot, all right, many individuals involved in this competition always use this statement. It is an experience of a lifetime. It's true because you get to know a lot of people, you share your views, and as a law student, you feel that actually you are transitioning towards becoming a professional. And so the advantages, in my view, are many. If I were to name the most important skills so students develop by participating, not just in the vismoot, but in any kind of competition that involves mooting, I would say legal writing, legal research, oral advocacy, critical thinking, teamwork, that is something that as lawyers we always struggle with, so it's very good. Time management, development of personal and professional connections, and of course, increased employability. In the past, I have had plenty of students sitting for job interviews that gave me the same feedback. Dr. Maria, because of the vismoot, I got into this interview. Dr. Maria, the interviewer told me that because of the interview, the vismoot, I'm getting the job. So that's why I think it's very important, although tiring, I understand, is very important for students to try and be part of this competition, not just the vismoot, but any kind of, as you know, there are plenty of mooting exercise.
Yes, even after graduating, I still feel the benefits of joining the vismoot because it is exactly what you said. It feels like transitioning into a more practical experience as compared to being in the academia and sticking to the theoretical side of it. And you gain a practical understanding of this expertise that you otherwise wouldn't have known about unless you took arbitration or ADR as a subject on its own. So that was quite beneficial. And the skills that you gain from joining the vismo, it truly is something that can translate into soft skills when you're looking for jobs later down the line. And the connections, as you said, they are very deep. They are very, especially here in the UAE, arbitration is the people here know each other. And so being connected to one another is quite helpful, just getting around the industry and entering the industry after a law student.
Yeah.
Now, using your expertise, I would like to ask a question. In recent years, it appears that there's been an uprise of corporations opting to resolve cross-border disputes by means of international arbitration. What do you consider are the key reasons behind the increasing preference for international arbitration?
Well, Patricia, I see the increased use of international arbitration to settle disputes in any international business transaction as the natural consequence of any business transaction, the core element, that is to say, trust. Any commercial relationship, whether national or cross-border international, is based upon a great deal of trust between the contractual parties. And so if the parties that decided to build a commercial relationship wish to preserve over time their relationship, going to court in case something goes wrong is not the best way to do so. I mean, litigation often means that parties will go to court, they will get their judgment, and after that, the continuation of the relationship is almost impossible. So I believe that the attempt to overcome this confrontational aspect of litigation is what is boosting the use or the preference for arbitration. Of course, on a more technical note, there are plenty of reasons why arbitration is increasingly preferred to litigation, especially for international commercial contracts, as you said, such as avoiding or at least minimizing issues related to choice of law, choice of forum, jurisdiction, enforcement of the decision, expertise of the decision makers, the confidentiality, neutrality, the flexibility and the speed of arbitration when compared to litigation, and sometimes also the costs. Occasionally the costs can be higher than litigation. That depends upon the institution chosen to resolve the disputes and the value of the dispute, but costs are also something that the parties take into account.
There's clear concrete benefits to arbitration, as you mentioned, and I understand why it would be better for corporations to enter arbitration rather than litigation, as you said, just to maintain the harmony. And now I want to ask, with Saudi Arabia recently becoming a contracting state of the CISG, how would you consider the role of international arbitration intersect with the adoption of the CISG, and how would that impact both legal harmonization and cross-border trade within the Arab region?
Yes. So when a business relationship needs to be framed into a contract, there are two main legal aspects the parties need to negotiate and agree upon. That is to say, the law that governs the substance of the relationship, so the substantive law, and of course, the method to settle disputes. So if the parties come from countries that are signatories to the CSG, they will have already a facilitation because they will be used to the same set of legal principles when it comes to their duties, their rights, and their responsibilities. And on the other side, Patricia, countries that decided to accede to the CSG usually are also countries that foster arbitration, try to support the use of arbitration to settle disputes. And you mentioned the example of Saudi Arabia that has recently become a signatory to the convention. And of course, you know that in the previous years, there has been also in the country an attempt to facilitate arbitration. Now they have a new relatively new arbitral chamber. They have a moot competition in Arabic. So, you know, I think that these are two sides of the same coin. And of course, having a common set of principles helps boosting trade, because when investors decide this in the Arab region, but in general worldwide, because as investors, after you have been doing your pure business considerations, you decide to enter a foreign market if the market is reliable in terms of legal structure and in terms of dispute settlement, not just going to court, because of course, especially in the Gulf, as you are aware, all the countries are trying to support their economic diversification plans through the attraction of foreign investors. And if I am a foreign investor, honestly, and I know that in case of dispute, I have to go to court and deal with the laws I'm not familiar with the language Arabic that is not easy to master, I will think twice. So that's why I think that this recent accession to the CSG, because of the economic role and diplomatic role played by Saudi Arabia in the region, is gonna benefit the cross-border transactions in the Arab world. So overall, it's a good news. Although we know that Saudi Arabia acceded with one reservation due to issues with compliance with Islamic law, but at least is a first step.
It is definitely a first step, and it is quite interesting seeing the development of arbitration within the region. You can see the steps forward that each country is taking. We recently had an interview with the director of SCCA Dubai, Ms. Fatima Balfaqi, and she mentioned the same thing of how you can definitely see the opening of the institutions and the CISG and everything as a testament to how much these countries are intending to move forward and show themselves as as an arbitration captain. And now, moving forward, there's a question that I've been meaning to ask you for a very long time, and this would be very beneficial to all of the students watching. What advice would you give aspiring lawyers and law students who want to be involved in international arbitration?
Okay, so in a nutshell, get educated and get trained. So if the law school you're attending offers courses in arbitration or ADR, make sure you take those. If the vismoot is one of the activities offered, like in your case, make sure you participate. Even if you don't feel you want to be an oralist, but make sure that you try and participate in the vismoot activities. If neither is offered in your law school, so just be proactive. Go to the dean, go to your professors, get together a group of students that have shared your same interests, and propose this as an opportunity, you know, and of course be ready to explain why. And Patricia, honestly, you are a very lucky generation, because with all the technology available nowadays, you have an easy access to knowledge, to information. So if there is no way to get a formal training or education during your university studies, just take an online course, just read things on arbitration, do an internship over summer. Okay, so that's why for me, getting educated and getting trained, ideally both, are the keys. And if you have done the vismoot, I don't know if you did so, make sure that you also join the vismoot Alumni Association, because they have available plenty of resources, including information about scholarship opportunities to pursue postgraduate degrees.
Thank you, Dr. Maria. Those are really helpful advice that I think all our students will benefit. Just the proactivity, and also your advice really resonates through your experience as an academia and a legal professional at the same time. Just get educated and get trained. And
And as
now,
I said, I didn't do the vismoot when I was a student. So this did not prevent me from being involved for
absolutely.
many years now.
And now our last question. Is there any message you would like to leave for the Mooting Society?
Yes, so I've been Googling what you're doing, and I believe that you are doing an excellent job, because mooting is a demanding exercise. You know yourself, because you have to do it on the top of your classes, your exams, the other extracurricular activities, your family commitments, your personal life. And so I think that this is really commendable, not just for the students who decide to do it on the first place, but also because you are playing the role of model for the other students. So you benefit yourself, but you benefit also the other students. And so my very last message to the Mooting Society is, even if or when things become very difficult, never get distracted from your goals. Focus on what you have decided to do. Remind yourself why you decided to start that in the first place, and work hard to towards meeting your goals for yourself, for those who look at you as a role model, and of course for the university community you live in. So good luck with the vismoot this year and all the other mooting activities you and the other students are doing. And because I know that you graduated, Patricia, make sure you don't disappear. Make sure that you pass on to others what you have been learning from me.
Of course, Dr. Mia. Thank you very much, Dr. Mia, for giving us your time and your opportunity and your wisdom, and just giving us a chance to talk about your experience and your expertise. And thank you.
Thank you, Patricia, once again. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.